Welcome to the Twisted Tentacle Tavern. I am your innkeeper, Vase Odin. If you ever wanted to up your game on mystery and investigation scenes, stay tuned. It'll blow your players' minds. When I first started playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I didn't really care for the investigation scenes. They were usually bland or boring. They were a lot of times pass or fail, so like roll history or roll arcana, and if you succeeded, you got all the information, and if you failed, you got nothing. So usually I waited till the more fun parts of the scenario and just kind of tuned out whenever there was a mystery or investigation scene. And I played with a ton of DMs, so it's not the DMs necessarily. I think it's just the way the system is presented. And then I played Delta Green. And if you haven't heard of Delta Green, it's an investigative horror role-playing game that spun off of the Call of Cthulhu. If you're interested in learning more about Delta Green, I'll post some links in the video description. But anyways, I really wanted to find a way to incorporate that type of investigative game into my Dungeons & Dragons mystery scenes and investigative scenes. And as it turns out, the system's already there. You don't even have to change any mechanics to really up the game. You just have to make a couple of tweaks in how you go about doing things, and it changes things drastically. So the biggest thing that I learned about investigation and mystery scenes is that it's all about the players figuring out the mystery, solving the mystery on their own. It seems kind of meta, but trust me, it'll give them so much more fulfillment and make them feel more involved and engaged with the adventure if you let them as players figure out the mystery. And the way they go about doing that is through their investigations, you're feeding them tidbits of information based on how well they roll. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that. So basically, when there's an investigation scene, the players are going to determine what they want to do. You'll make them roll their skill check, and then when you've written the adventure, you've written the different results based on their skill roll amount. And they'll gain more information the higher that they roll. But even if they roll a really very low roll, they're still going to get something from that roll. It's not going to be a fully fruitless thing. You don't want them to fail and then the investigation stops cold, because then your adventure is over. You want to keep propelling the adventure forward, and then the players will gain more information if they roll higher, and they'll be able to piece things together much more quickly. Or they'll have more options of places to go, people to interview, things to look into, all that kind of stuff. So a couple of things that it's easy to fall into a trap. One is making a pass or fail skill check. So if they're rolling history or arcana and they roll a 20, okay, they get all the information. Or they roll a 1, they get nothing. Oh, you don't find anything. That is usually a big mistake, because it stops your investigation and it stops your adventure cold. And the last thing you want is for your adventure to just end right there because someone rolled poorly. So make sure that you set up your investigation scenes and scenarios where they'll always have some information to at least continue going forward with. Let me give you an example of a mystery scene and how it unfolds, or how it could unfold in a typical Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game. The players begin at the tavern. Suddenly, Rolag, the man that they were meeting with, falls over dead. And he was drinking ale as he was speaking with the player characters. So here, the players have a mystery. He's dead. What killed him? Who killed him? They need to figure it out. So they have a few things that they can already do. They can search the body. They can look around for any suspicious characters. Maybe they can question the server. So as a DM, you have to determine what skills are needed in order to advance the investigation. So for example, let's say the players decide to search the body. So one of the PCs wants to try and determine the cause of death. So maybe you ask them to roll a medicine check. So this check doesn't have a DC rating. Again, we're not playing with difficulty ratings for investigation or mystery rolls. It's not pass or fail. Instead, the PCs can gather information based on how high they roll. So if they roll, say, a 10 or lower, they can determine that Rolag was poisoned. A 12 may give them the information that the poison was ingested and not injected. A 14 maybe can tell them as well that the ingested poison was in their drink and not their food. And a 17 may determine that the poison was an extract from a specific type of plant that's exotic to the region. So you see, a 10 still got them that he was poisoned. So at least they can still propel that story forward. But all the way as high as a 17, now they know it was ingested, it was in their drink, and the poison was some exotic plant. So now they have some leads that they can go on. Now, next, they can decide to maybe question the server. So the server, Naja, is kind of just a little bit nervous. So based on role playing, you can have them roll either persuasion or intimidation. So a 10 determines that Naja was paid by a man in a white hat to put a special flavoring in Rolag's drink. A 12 maybe can determine that Naja also saw the man talk to another man before coming over to her. A 14 gives a little bit more information, so Naja recognized the second man as a local guard named Brutus. And a 17, Naja remembers that Brutus generally patrols the docks districts. So again, you're giving them more information. Now you know that Brutus somehow is involved. You know where to find him. Now, if they didn't roll 17 and they don't know that he's in the docks district, they'll have to do a little bit more legwork, but they can still get to that information a different way. So if they learn that Brutus was somehow involved, they can now go to the guards and find out about Brutus and then find out where he hangs out at or what his patrols are, which would be the docks district. It's an extra step because they didn't roll as high, but they can still get to that information. So it's the player's job here to piece it all together. So that's the important thing. You're feeding them all these things, but you're not spoon feeding everything, and you're still propelling the story forward. The players now, they get to do some mental work, and trust me, it's going to make them feel so involved when they're like figuring it out. Like, oh, okay, well, this Brutus guy works in the docks. Maybe we can go interrogate him. And another player will say, well, no, let's go to the exotic plant shop and find out where we can get this extract for this plant and narrow down our search. And if one of the shopkeepers happens to be wearing a white hat, now we know that this other person's involved. So they're going to feel a lot more involved. They're going to feel a lot more like part of the story, and they will have a lot of fun. Trust me. You can use all sorts of skill rolls when doing investigation and mystery types of scenarios. So Arcana checks might get them information on rituals or spells. History checks can get them local information. Nature checks, just like the example that I gave, can determine like poisons or anything else like horse tracks, what type of animal, that kind of thing. So almost every skill can be utilized in one way or another. The best way when figuring out or writing out these scenarios is to just kind of make like a tree of information. So each clue that the players go to find will have its own set of 10, a 12, a 14, a 17, and then you'll have the information stack up. So if someone rolls a 17, they learn everything below that. If they roll a 14, they get to learn all the 10, 12, and 14 roll information. So that's kind of how it works. So trust me, it seems like super simple and it almost sounds like already what you're doing, but those minor tweaks, it's a world of difference. I mean, so it's honestly that simple. It's the basic recipe for a fun and engaging mystery adventure. And trust me, the players will be super happy that all their skills are getting used, and they'll feel really smart and important when they figured out and solved the mystery on their own, uh, based on their characters, the information that their characters have gathered. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. And let me know, have you used a different method of running investigation or mystery games? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Or if you're using this method, let me know how it's worked out for you. Until next time, I'm your innkeeper, Vasoden. I'll talk to you soon. I wanted to take a brief moment and thank Suchart and all you other patrons for being so generous. Thank you very much.